Hello and welcome back to the Solo Streams. I'm your host, Ryan Moulter on the AVS forums. We're going to be talking about using speakers as a tool and really everything because I keep seeing this on the forums. I don't know why, but we keep seeing it on the forum. So we'll be on for 30 minutes to an hour answering all of your questions after we get through the topics and things that I've been doing, movies we've watched, and then we'll go on our way. And I will do another one of these. I think on Thursday is when we're scheduled. Then Jonathan and I think we'll do another one on Friday or Saturday, and we'll carry on our way. It's been a while. Holidays get in the way, kids get in the way, family gets in the way, but we are here. And we will continue. We will persevere, I hope, until we don't, because that's the way of these streams. But anyway, what have we done? So lately, Saturday, what did we do? Saturday, Jonathan, Bob, Kevin, and John all came over and we watched, what did we watch? We watched Predator Badlands. This is another case of movies doing weird things. Not movies doing weird things, people doing weird things, because people have said this is the best movie. This is a great movie. It's a great addition to the franchise. It's awesome. And while the action and the sound were fantastic, story, and this is my opinion, guys. I am not a movie reviewer. I am not somebody that you should necessarily listen to in any way, stretch or form, but this is my opinion on the movie. It was okay. I gave it a C, a B minus. Action, audio, fantastic. It is one continuous demo reel. Great. Story, not great. Bob put it this way. Bob used to do the streams with us, and he said, if this was not a Predator movie and it was not piggybacking on the Predator franchise, it would have been great. But the fact that it was using the Predator name detracted from it a lot because there are expectations that go along with that franchise and how things should play out that didn't happen. I enjoyed the Predator part of it. There were just other parts, and I won't ruin it because I think it is worth watching. It is fun. I said I enjoyed the movie. It is not one that I will go back and want to watch multiple times. I will want to watch it for demo's sake, but it was fun. It was enjoyable. It was not one that after it ended, I sat there and went, that was amazing. It was one that I had to contemplate, like, how do I feel about it? So it was fun. I enjoyed it. C, B minus. Wasn't a terrible movie. I don't regret watching it. It was good. I enjoyed it. So that's my rating on the movie. Now, to jump into the topic, using speakers as a tool. And this isn't just focused on speakers. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but I got to bring it up again because it keeps coming up on the forums. And I got a question last night about amps. And this was after I posted the topic on this stream for scheduling it. And what that was lately, and this I'm speaking as this guy, I've seen a lot of if an amp has 100 watts, it'll sound the same as another amp that has 100 watts. And my response, because I was arguing with somebody else on the forum, as one does on the forums, and the guy was saying, well, 100 watts from one amp won't sound the same on another amp. And I said, I totally disagree. As long as an amplifier is properly designed and it's delivering the needed power at given frequencies until it rolls off, whatever that roll off may be, you will not be able to tell the difference. Measurably, sure. If you put them under an oscilloscope or some other type of measurement device, you'll be able to tell. But our ears are not measurement devices. And while there may be minute differences or even pretty large differences measurement wise, we can't hear them. There's so much distortion created by the speaker that any type of minutia that comes about from an amplifier, as long as it's properly designed, and I'm talking like your Synad score and everything like that that may differ, you're not going to be able to tell, guys. I've done this. We're going to do it at M-Wave again. We're going to do blind amplifier comparisons so that people can do this themselves. And if I'm wrong, if I go back through and I find out, hey, I can absolutely tell the difference, I will be the first to admit it. I am perfectly fine admitting when I am wrong. But given my experience, given the data, given people like Dr. Toole and his experience in all of this, I can't get behind the idea that things will sound different unless they are intentionally designed or unintentionally designed to sound different. There is an objective, measurable reason that things will sound different. You can see it, right? It's physics, it is science. You can measure this stuff. We have the equipment to be able to measure it. You'll be able to tell. Now, with speakers, it gets a little more gray because speakers, I think it gets more gray because the room impacts a lot of this. And when people do these comparisons and they do these experiences, they do them in different rooms, right? In rooms, as I think many of you will know, and if you don't know, let me tell you, the room will impact greatly how things sound. I believe that, and this is not a measured number, this is just me giving you an idea. The room accounts for something like 50% of your experience. It is a huge difference maker. And if you do not account for the room and you do not account for your subjective bias and your subconscious, you are throwing your time away because you are coloring the results that you are going to get. No question. I cannot emphasize that enough. In order to do this properly, if you want to do a speaker comparison and you want to truly figure out what speakers you like, if you don't have a lot of experience, I'm lucky enough that I work this. This is my professional life. I do this professionally. I know listening to a speaker, I can account for the room. I can listen and be like, that's the room that I'm hearing. I know how to deal with that. But even then, I will roll back to measurements. I'll roll back to spinoramas, clipple data, near field measurements to try and take the room out of the equation if I'm listening to things in a different room, if I'm trying to build a subjective opinion on what I think of a speaker. If you want to take all of that out of the equation, the speakers have got to be in the same room. They've got to use the exact same equipment, mainly. And the reason the equipment, even though we just talked about the amplifiers, is because gain levels will change. And if you do not account for gain, one system is going to be significantly louder than the other one, right? That is a problem. And if you do not account for auto EQ, mainly turning it off, because auto EQ can vary run to run and it will color the experience, you're going to have a bad time. And by bad time, I mean you're going to have a colored test. So ideal situation, right? This is what I've used to test before. I've used something like a Sonos amp, a Weem, a Blue Sound Power Node or Power Edge with everything off, no subwoofer. I've put on the crossover. And the reason I did that is because I want to eliminate the low end from the speaker. And this is how I do these tests. And the reason I eliminate the low end from the speaker is because subconsciously, and I've shown this in testing, we as people, and I will pick the speaker that does this as well. We will pick the speaker that can get the lowest because we view it as more capable. But if you're using it with a subwoofer, why does that matter? It does not matter. As long as you can get decently below the crossover point, 80s typically as low as most people will go. Some people want to go lower than that, but 80s as low as most people will go. It does not matter at all. And because of that, I put on a normal 80 hertz crossover and I don't play with the sub so that I'm equalizing the speakers. And if I have a speaker that can only play higher than that and I really want to test it, I will raise that crossover to that point because I'm trying to equalize things. Maybe sometimes at the detriment to the other speaker. And I will test it differently on its own. But I try and equalize as many things as possible. So keeping the signal chain simple, using something like a Blue Sound, a Sonos, or a Weem with no EQ, no bass management, none of that. I guess bass man. I'm using a crossover to equalize the speakers and then listening to them. Right? Now, important factor here is you've got to equalize them because the sensitivity of the speaker is going to be different. So ideally, you would have two separate Sonos amps or Weems or Blue Sounds, and you would adjust the volume accordingly so that when you switch back and forth, you can hear the same volume. Because, like the subs, we as people subconsciously will pick the speaker that can play louder because we misconstrue loudness for clarity. So you've got to account for that. SPL matching is imperative. And then the last thing you've got to make sure is the speakers need to be near, if not in the exact same location. Very important. Exact same location. Because we talked about the room. If the speakers are in different locations, you're going to have a bad time because how the room impacts that speaker is going to change. First reflections are going to change. It's going to sound different if you move the speaker around the room. You're going to have different boundary interactions. You've got to put them in the same place. And this is why when we do that, and I'm going to do this again in M-Wave this year, we put them on a Lazy Susan so that every time, and we did it in mono. That's another thing that I highly suggest is you take stereo out of the equation and do 2 speakers in mono. You can stack them if that gets them as close as possible or big rooms. You're still running into issues because then you've got sound bouncing off of those speakers. It's a complex issue to solve. But you want to ideally put them in the exact same location. That's why we use the Lazy Susan. So that every time we switch speakers, we would rotate the Lazy Susan and the speaker, because we're doing it in mono, would be the exact same place. And we level matched all of them. The test was done blind. That's the last thing that's very important is you need to do it blind because if you do sighted testing, subconsciously you will have an expectation and that will color the results. So we did it blind. Lazy Susan putting the speaker in the exact same location every time. They were level matched. There were no subs, and it allows for a very objective comparison. And you can very easily, and it can be very stark. It's amazing how stark the difference can be when you're doing this blind, of how quickly you can find out, oh, I really like this one more. And then the results can be shocking. And that is a realization of how much our subconscious impacts the decision. And this is why sighted testing is so bad. If you do it sighted, you're really not testing anything. You have an idea of which one you want to win from the beginning. And that will normally come out. Couple that with the art of the demo and what people putting on the demo are saying, that can impact your subconscious and your subconscious bias. So when we do these tests during M-Wave, I say some instructions and then I shut up. And I shut up because anything that is said will impact the result. You are skewing how somebody potentially is thinking about what they're listening to. And that is not what you want. You want them uncolored, unfiltered, and to remove as much as that subconscious bias as possible. So tools, you got to find objectively what speaker fixes issues in your room. Any equipment, we talk about this all the time. Maybe I just need to stop doing topics about this because you guys are like, oh, you put another topic up about this. I just probably need to stop. But it's a really important topic. Design the room and then find equipment that fixes shortcomings in that room, not the other way around. Do not design the room for the equipment. That is a recipe for leaving a lot of performance and capability on the table. You want to design the room, find the shortcomings, and then pick equipment that fixes those shortcomings or works within the limitations that that room presents. Because speakers are different. And there's going to be speakers that you like and that maybe somebody else likes. I think we do have a propensity to like more neutral speakers as humans. We have a tendency to go towards neutrality overall, but that does not mean that that's what you're necessarily going to like. We're going to test that at M-Wave to see if people really prefer more neutral speakers. I don't know what the result of that is going to be. But on the flip side of that, you can use different responses from speakers, maybe ones that have a warmer sound in the mid range or a brighter sound in the upper end or vice versa. to fix or augment things that are going on in your room. That is what I mean by using a speaker as a tool. Use its capabilities natively without EQ, without any of that. You want to start baseline native speaker. This is what it's doing on its own without any type of software interaction to augment what's going on in the room. People that say, hey, I can fix all of that in EQ, you might be able to, but EQ in and of itself is not perfect. You are creating phase changes with every filter. So having a flat responsive speaker, in my opinion, is much more important than just saying, hey, this speaker is not really flat, but I can fix all of that in EQ. Not great. You want to limit the amount of EQ that you need, in my opinion, and allow the speaker to be as natural as possible. Less is more. Don't just schmammer things on top of each other. So using them as tools, looking at the data. Adam Peltz, Eric, and I did a stream that released a few days ago on Spinorama Data CEA 2034s about how to look at that data. And I think it's a great starting point. We're going to revisit that and talk about CEA 2010s. I think it's a great starting point to figure out what equipment works best in your space instead of what space works best for your equipment. While you can do that, that takes a lot more money, a lot more of a flexible space, and it's not ideal. You're probably going to leave performance on the table. When I was doing this room, the Mad VR Experience Center, I was trying to figure out these are my limitations, right? These are the limitations of the room. This is how we want it to work. I had an idea of what speakers I wanted, but we chose speakers that worked for that space, fit in that space, that dispersion, response, all of that worked and augmented and complemented that space. That was the idea. And that's where I think all of you should go. This is going to be a short stream. We've only been going for 17 minutes. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. Palindrome Guy has one. So we'll go through a couple of them and then we'll wrap it up and then we'll have another one on Thursday. These shorter streams are nice. So Palindrome asks, I'm looking at getting a pair of JBL 4722Ns for a music movie 2.2 setup. Someone in the comments said they need room to breathe. My living room is only 20 feet wide, 11 feet deep. Is it still worth it? 4722N. Those, if I remember right, those are big speakers. Those are big boys. JBL 4722N. Those are big boys. I don't have a good answer for you on this. Do they have dispersion data? Is that on here? They've got response. Hugely sensitive. Dispersion. They don't list it. I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you, Palindrome Guy. With any box speaker, you don't want them right on a wall. These are definitely commercial cinema speakers. So you may want to look at how these speakers are put in behind a screen. Are they done in a baffle where they have a flat surface right up against them? Are they typically utilized with insulation right up next to them? How are they typically installed? With a grain of salt there, and the caveat is how they're done in commercial still may not be optimal in how they're designed. It may just be done because that's how they can do it. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer. If you can find Spinorama data on it and send it to me, or even near field measurements, send them to me. You can scan the link in the top left. That'll give you my contact info. I think it'll actually take you to the contact me on my website and send that information to me. And then we can have a conversation about it. I'm pretty sure they're great speakers, right? JBL makes great commercial speakers. Are there better speakers out there? Yeah. These speakers are designed to get loud and do it undistorted. I'd need the spinorama and actual measurement data to be able to tell you anything else. I don't know. Could be good, could not be good. Unfortunately, that's the only answer I can give you. You do have a great wife. I put speakers that are smaller than that, the Black Swans, in my living room, and she tolerated them. She was not happy. I still remember the look I got when I unboxed them because I'd been telling her that it'd be like you taking these into your living room. And these speakers are they're actually not. Oh, this is 2 portions. Okay, so they are I don't know how big these are. Yeah, I do. They're actually not that big. Yes, they are. They're 50 inches tall and 30 inches wide. Yeah, they're big. But they're not that much bigger than the Black Swans, as footprint-wise. And I told her, imagine putting these in your living room, taking them in, and your wife is expecting something the size of a Martin Logan F200, like a traditional box speaker, like tower speaker. That's what was there before. And you're like, oh, yeah, these speakers, they're not much bigger. They're actually the same size, and they're 5 times bigger. I almost died that day just from her look. It's a scary look. Married men know exactly what I'm talking about. The look of, I'm going to tolerate this, but if we weren't married, I would no longer be here. I don't know why I put up with you. I don't know why I settled with you, because she did settle with me. So I have a very awesome wife, like you do. And our crash says, should you set your crossovers to a lower setting for near field subs? Lower setting. No. You would want how can I put this? Your normal crossover should be fine. So if you cross over at 80, that would mean you're going to start getting low frequent, depending on the crossover you're using. If you're doing 12 dB per octave or 24 dB per octave, 48 dB per octave, right? How fast that transition is going to happen. So your 12 dB per octave, you're going to have a shallower line. You're going to lose 12 dB per octave as it comes down. That's the transition as they come into each other. 24, it's going to be a little steeper. 48, it's going to be even steeper. And that's how fast the transition is going to happen. So your 48 is the steepest. It's going to have that transition much more stark, and it's going to move to the subs. 24, less fast. 12, much less fast. Depending on the device, I think most are using 24. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. It's either 24 or 12. Very, very few use 48. But that's beside the point. So lower setting, I would not use lower settings. I would not move my crossover down to something like 60 or 50. I would leave it the same. I think you're going to get a better experience that way because there's actually a shocking amount of material that happens in that higher region that you want to be smacking you. That's going to be helpful. Don't take that away. Should be the same crossover. As far as I'm aware, with Jonathan and myself, I didn't change really anything. Now, with something like Storm, I have more flexibility because I'm not beholden by the crossover the rest of the setup is using. So I could theoretically run them full range, right? Main subs could be getting crossover at 80 or 100 or 120 or whatever. And then the near fields could be totally different because on the Storm, I can send them out to zone 2, which theoretically you could do that. I don't know how the Denon or like a Yamaha or Onkyo or Marantz, how they're going to handle that. But if you sent a stereo mix to zone 2 and then brought that into a output. I don't know how you would be able to output this because I don't know what the outputs are in the back of those receivers and preamps. But theoretically, if you were capable of sending zone 2 out, not through a speaker, but zone 2 out through like an RCA, you could send that into a mini DSP and then apply any type of um, pass filter or anything in the DSP so that you're not sending a full range setting. Because the problem with sending full range to a near field sub is you're going to hear voices and stuff coming out of the subs. It's going to sound like that behind you, and that's not what you want. So ideally, that's how you would handle it, but you would need something like a mini DSP if your preamp or AVR is not able to handle that internally to do all the processing, to do the pass filtering so that you're not getting those voices that are going to sound like this coming from your back. That's not what you want. Clear as mud. And our Crash 1. Hopefully that answered your question. D-Dent 22. I'm looking to get a narrow subwoofer design for an airfield in the front of the room. Airfield. Something in the 12 to 14 inch range. GSG makes 17, but I need something a little more narrow. Airfield. What is airfield? I need enlightenment, D-Dent. Not sure what that means. 12 to 14 inches. I'm assuming this means they're going to go on the sides of the screen. I think what you would do. Ooh. 12 is really narrow. Do you have any depth limitations? Or is it just width? If you've don't have any depth limitations, it allows for some more variability and flexibility here because you could get a shallow sub and instead of it firing towards the reference seating position, it would fire into the middle of the room. So you can always turn subs. Now you are changing boundary interactions. So you may not have the same boundary interaction as if it was facing forward. And you do have subs then firing into each other. So you may have to play with phase so you don't have cancellations. You may or may not. I don't know. It depends on the room. But that, if you don't have the depth limitations near, I don't know what near means. D-Dent. Near the front of the room or near field. Anyway, back to what I was saying. If you don't have the depth limitation, bigger driver will be beneficial. As Palindrome Guy says, you've got the RTJ is 15 inches deep. Maybe. There are drivers that are significantly shallower than that. It's a compromise, right? You're trading motor structure potentially for depth, for flexibility and positioning. So you've got to take that into account. But typically, the larger the driver, this is not universal, but typically, depth is an issue. Brr. How much depth do you have? Is it the same? If it's the same, what I would do in this situation is build cabinets that span from floor to ceiling and then the entire space that you have. Want to place them in the front below the screen and behind. Below the screen. Okay. Let's talk about the front. If that is say you've got the same width and depth limitations, what I would do is I would do near field. Okay. I understand now. I would do more of an array. Brian Fellers, who's in Kansas City, is doing something like this, except he's more extreme in his setup, and his entire baffle wall is 12-inch subs, those JBL 12s. But you could take 12s, 12-inch drivers, which I think is if you have 14 inches, you're even then you're going to be on the fringes, and put a bunch of them in a long cabinet. So you're increasing surface area by adding more drivers. You're increasing power by adding more drivers. It's not ideal, but given enough of them, properly wired, properly positioned, I think it could be an adequate solution for your problem and something to look into. Uh, look into like a multi-driver, smaller driver, bigger enclosure with a bunch of drivers in it. For the near field, you've got some flexibility there with the near field. You could do a direct attach open baffle where you directly attach a driver to the chair, not sealed. So it's not in a cabinet, and have it just firing into the back of the chair. I had those underneath. Jonathan has those underneath where it's actually using these JBL 12s. I don't know if he's using the JBL 12s. That's what I used. And I had them not sealed in any, they weren't in cabinets. I just attached a piece of plywood with cutouts. I had 2 per chair because I'm extreme like that. I'm extra. 2 per chair. They were very low volume, and they would fire into your butt, just into the seat. And it created a very tactile feel. And then I complemented that because you're not going to be able to get very low, right? You have no cabinet. And you're playing at very low volumes. I complemented that with its own crossover with a butt kicker. So then I had a butt kicker under there that would take over the low end. So the boss, a direct attach, would play down to a frequency, and then it would cross over into the tactile transducer, and then it would take over. Now, I did have a traditional near field behind me, but it sounds like you are very limited in the space that you have. So there's actually a lot of people that do this. Sheldon has done this, where they've used open baffle direct attach subs for near field. So don't be afraid to do that, but you're going to have to find a way to get it really close to your chair. But that may give you the flexibility that you need for sizing, because if you direct attach a 12-inch open baffle driver to your chair, it'll give you a great experience, given proper implementation. There is a tactile transducer all of this stuff thread on AVS. I would encourage you to read that and ask your questions there, because there's guys that have done that. I mean, I've done it, but there's guys that live and breathe this stuff. So I would encourage you to look at that. But my suggestion for you, long-windedly, for the front at least, is 10 or 12-inch drivers, as big as you can get, multiple of them in cabinets or separate cabinets, just a bunch of them. Because adding drivers, you're getting the surface area. You got to make it up somehow. That's how I would do that, personally. Or you could buy just already completed subs, depending on the room. But long answer to a short question. William Kramer, unrelated, Ryan, but why do you think publications are giving the LS 9000 good reviews when apparently it is do not buy from yourself and Jonathan? I think that depends on what you're comparing it to. It's not, I won't say it's a bad projector. It's not a bad projector. I'm just looking at it in the light of the Valerian Max, right? The Valerian Max is a better projector than it is for the same money. So that does not mean that the LS 9000 is bad, because it does have other benefits. It's got, if I remember correctly, it's got a motorized lens. It's very quiet. The Valerian Max gets quite a bit louder when you turn on the RBE elimination feature. So it all depends on the tool that you need to accomplish the job. Again, like we talked about with the speakers as a tool, projector is the same. It's getting the projector that has the capabilities that allow you to do what you want to do within the space. So to reiterate, it's important. The first thing anybody should do when they're designing a space is ask yourself, what am I using this space for? Am I going to be using this space not just for movies? Is it a media space? Am I going to be doing yoga in this space? Am I going to do, having, is it a playroom? Is it all of this stuff? Am I going to be needing the lights on, watching sports? Then using that direction, that use case to drive the selection of tools that allow you to overcome those limitations. If I'm needing to watch with the lights on for sports to entertain, that's going to dictate the light output of the projector and the screen material that I'm choosing. If the projector is going to go in the room, right, because of room design, I need a projector ideally that is quieter. So things like the RBE elimination from the Max may be annoying because a lot of times when you turn that stuff on, JVC with their 8K upscaling emits like a high pitch whine. That kind of stuff can get annoying to some people. And it's really important, if that is a limitation of the room, that be accounted for. So in this case, it's determining, does the LS9000 have capabilities like a motorized lens that allow me to get to an end goal? So that opens up the breadth for more, how can I put this? More better equipment, right? There's other equipment like the LS9000 or LS12000 is better than the LS9000 in every way, but that price point, you're making compromises a lot of times in different ways, in different facets. So it's finding at a given price point, as I tell a lot of people, you're always making compromises. And one of those compromises is money. So if I want everything capability wise, I'm probably spending more. That's the compromise in that case. If I don't want to spend as much, I'm giving up something else. So if I'm in the $4,000 price range or $5,000 price range, what am I giving up in order to maintain that? And every manufacturer is going to give up different things. So you've just got to determine, what am I giving up? When we're comparing it to the LS12000, it's not good. But the LS12000 is better in every way, but it's more expensive. So that's important to note. I would probably pick the Valerian Max over the LS9000, but I understand why the LS9000 exists, because big box stores are not going to sell the Valerians, right? They want a lower price point offering to offer customers, which makes sense. So if the Valerian or other options are not even on the table and your compromise is money, that's where the LS9000 comes in. They have given up performance to hit a price point. Not everybody has access like we do for enthusiasts to everything, right? Not everybody's going to want to buy direct. They're going to want things implemented by an integrator. They're going to want things installed by a big box store just to buy it from a big box store. So you've got to look at it from a more open lens, that not all consumers are like us. If you asked me, I would pick the Valerian Max over the LS9000 virtually every time, as long as there were no compromises like a motorized lens. Does the Valerian Max have a maybe I'm just speaking nonsense. That there were no compromises the Valerian Max makes is that the LS9000 solves, right? Those are the things you need to ask yourself. Sorry, long-winded question. Palindrome guy, back to the JBLs. If Sheldon has those, which you are right, ask Sheldon. He has a lot of experience with those. I'm not the guy to ask because I don't have a lot of experience with those JBLs, and I want you to have a good experience with them. So you ask the guys that have experience. Fire him a message on AVS Forum. He'll answer. I promise. E4 Superfly, what is the context of this? Was I comparing from memory? Give me the context there. So, Derek, it's important to reference that a good product manager will account for. Not everybody does this. In the custom integration dealer world, all too often, people will sell to just a price point, right? They won't take into account what equipment needs to be utilized to overcome any type of limitations or reach an end goal. That's what should be done. You should have a plethora of options. It's like a good example would be I've got a garage with multiple cars. I've got an off-road vehicle, a car for the track, a daily driver, a truck, right? They're all designed to do different things. While I could take any of them to do any of those outcomes, the end result is going to be vastly different. If I take the track car to do off-roading, I'm going to have a bad time because it's not designed to do that. If I take the off-roader, more than likely, if it's specifically designed to do off-roading, to do daily driver things, not going to be great. So it's important to use the correct equipment for the job. And some equipment is more flexible than others, but it's really important to use the correct equipment to reach a desired outcome. Christie has released a new projector for the pro market that has Dolby Vision. What? Do you know if a version of this will make it to the home market? It's no Eclipse, but I was impressed when I saw it. Torsten. Link. Or what's its name? I need a name. Name. Can I Google this? Will Google Foo give it to me? Hold on. Let's see if we can find it. Christie Dolby Vision. It better not give me the Eclipse. I don't see anything, Torsten. Do you know if a version of this will make it to the home market? I honestly have no idea. It would be good. With video processors, though, I'm not worried about it. However, for Christie, this is a change in their direction because Dolby Vision allows them theoretically, as long as the content is Dolby Vision, to get around their poor tone mapping. Christie, historically, and this is for any boutique projector, in my experience, it's like the more boutique, the more commercial they become, the worse the tone mapping gets. My Griffin, its tone mapping, oh boy. I don't even think I can call it tone mapping. It's just bad. So this could be good for them. So Torsten says it's marketed as Dolby Vision plus Atmos by my local cinema. Oh, it's in the cinema market. I don't know. It may not even be a new projector. It just may be a new processor. I'll have to ask Chrissy. I have a question for them anyway. I'll shoot them a message after this stream because I need to ask them something about 3D. So I will ask them to see if they have any answer for me. But it could be a processor. It could just be marketing. Who knows? But I will ask, Torsten. So follow up and I'll ask. See if they can give me an answer. Last question, then we're going to talk about M-Wave for a minute. Looking for fidelity and low distortion at reference SPL levels, on-wall speakers, crossover for subs at 120 or even 140, 10 feet distance from 3-row Ascendo 10 or the 6 Pro. I mean, yeah. Not knowing anything else about the room, Ascendo 10. Ascendo 10 over the 6 Pro. No question. The SPL require capability of the 10 is superior to the 6. The 6 is going to give you like 1, maybe 2 dB over the normal 6. So I would do the 10. Greater surface area, much greater power handling, much better sensitivity. It's a compression driver, better experience. If you're in the US, scan that contact in the top left corner and I can get you taken care of. If you're not in the US, and you need a dealer, I can potentially hook you up, depending on your location, with a dealer that's able to get you taken care of. But shoot me a message regardless, and we can see making sure that the speaker that you choose or want is going to work ideally for you. Given what you're saying, Ascendo, but I'd want to know what the room is to make sure that that's a correct fit. For sure. In Dolby Cinemas, how do the Christie projectors do Dolby Vision? I don't know. I don't think they have to do a lot. I think it's all done through a processor, like a Dolby processor. So I'm not entirely whoa, they're not. So they're using different connections like DCI and stuff. I think a lot of that's just in the content. I don't think they're necessarily having to do anything because it's designed for that specific device. I think, Derek, don't quote me on that. But there's a lot less processing than you think is going on because it's designed for a specific environment. There is processing, but it's not like we're doing here on the residential side. There's a lot less variability, if you will. Dolby Vision theaters have to meet a certain level of criteria in order to be able to call themselves that, typically. So there's design criteria that can be met and expected. Okay. M-Wave. So M-Wave is coming 2026. It is 2020. Jesus, it is 2026 already. September 18th through the 20th. We're going to do things we've talked about numerous times on this channel. I'm doing a speaker comparison. We did it a couple years ago. We're doing amp comparisons. We're going to do a speaker cable comparison. It's going to run me ragged, but we're going to do it. Jason Dustle and Sammy Prescott. Jason Dustle's coming for sure. I think Sammy will be there. Are going to do a video room. They're going to take people through a calibration so you can ask questions about pro level calibrations. Why are you doing this? Things to account for. They're not going to teach you how to do a calibration, but they're going to teach you. They're going to be able to answer any questions that you may have of the why, the how, that kind of thing. There's going to be a video comparison with all of the projectors being presented. There will be many vendors. This year, we're focusing on knowledge. We've focused on knowledge in the past, but it's going to move away more from the penis measuring contest and back to how can we share knowledge and experiences. The Dolby Cinemas and the full surround theaters are cool, but what do you at the end of the day take away from that except from, oh my gosh, that was cool? You're not learning anything, which is what we want M-Wave to be about. We want you to be able to take away experiences and knowledge to then be able to implement into your own spaces. And I am emphasizing that immensely with the dealers this year. So if you come, which I highly encourage you to do, it's $50 for a 3-day ticket. The seminars and everything there is included. The only thing you're responsible for is getting your butt there, your room and board and food, and then the ticket, of course. But this is going to be much more about, you know, what is the difference between different sub layouts? What is, I already spoke about the different video and calibration and that kind of thing, but speaker comparisons. I'm going to do things hopefully like different driver comparisons all in a sheet and just getting different drivers. Ideally, we'll see how that goes. Different types of speakers, meaning different native frequency responses and which one you prefer. Different sub layouts. Ideally, doing things like what is art delivering me? What is waveforming delivering me? What are different types of subwoofers and excursion and surface areas going to get me? All acoustic tree, all that different kinds of stuff. That's the vision and the direction we are going this year for M-Wave. It's much less of how cool is this and more of how much can I learn to better our own spaces. It's cool to go see things, but if you can take away and have those things every day of the week because of things you learn in your own home, that's the idea. So again, M Wave, September 18th through the 20th. I know it's in September. We couldn't do it in the summer because of this stupid little thing called the World Cup. It's going to be a great experience. Highly suggest you guys come out. Tickets are available at midwestavexperience.net. You can buy them directly on the website. And yeah, hope to see you there. So Dolby Cinemas use CP950. Thanks, Superfly. Much appreciated. Projector comparison room again. Macro, yes, there will be a projector comparison. Absolutely. JVC just announced they're coming. They reached out. They're going to come. So there's going to be every projector. I'd like to get Valerian there. I'm probably going to have to buy all these projectors, which is historically what I do to eliminate, vendor bias. So all the Epsons, all the Sonys, all the JVCs, Valerian. I'd like the Titan to be there. As many as we can get. There will be some video walls. There'll be lots of TVs. You guys are going to have a lot of stuff to be able to see, and you're going to be able to see it in an objective way and have the vendors there to nerd out with to answer all of your questions. Like I've talked to the screen manufacturers and said, I want your chemists there. Make this as nerdy as possible. Let's talk about the materials and not just looking at stuff and what the spec is of the material. How is this made and what are the materials in it and how is it working? Because I think, like we talked about using it as a tool, the more we understand how something works, the better we can implement it to augment and work with other things in the room. Because if you understand how it works, you know the limitations at a fundamental and granular level, and you can figure out better how to use it in your use case. End of the day. So we'll wrap it up from there. I said 8:17 that it was going to be a short stream, and here we are, almost 45 minutes later. But I enjoy talking to all of you. Your questions are always great. So I will see you all on Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time. And then Jonathan and I will more than likely stream this weekend. Not sure on the topic yet or when Jonathan and I will stream, but there will be another one. So stay safe out there. Enjoy all of your home theater journeys and AV journeys. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. I try and answer them within a day or two when they come in. And if you have any questions, need equipment or anything, scan that link. That one. Hopefully my finger's pointing the right way. Even if it's just questions, I do not pressure people to buy things. I just want to make sure that you guys are taken care of on your home theater journeys. So if you need anything, scan that link, get you taken care of. And I will see you guys the next one, Thursday, 8 a.m. Central.